If you could only train one thing for the rest of your life, would you choose strength or endurance? Lifters say cardio kills your gains. Runners say lifting weights will make you bulky and slow. But a brand new study just changed the game and came up with the definitive answer. I'm a sports scientist, physiotherapist, and former professional triathlete, and in this video I'll show you exactly what the science say is the best training form for longevity, health, and performance. So let's start with what you clicked on this video for. If you only had to do one thing, what is superior? Most people assume that running is the best way to live longer. After all, we've all seen the headlines of how runners just have a lower mortality risk and just a better health in general. But the Copenhagen City Heart Study found something interesting. When they looked at 10,000 people over a period of 30 years, they compared strength to cardio for longevity. Here's what they discovered. People with high levels of cardiorespiratory fitness from endurance training had a 44% lower risk of dying early compared to those with low fitness. People with high muscle strength had a 32% lower risk of early death, even if they weren't highly fit in terms of endurance. But here's the most important part. The lowest mortality rates were in people who had both high endurance and high muscle strength. So what does that mean? If you only run and ignore strength training, you might be missing out on a key for longevity. And if you only lift and ignore cardio, then you might be increasing your risk of heart disease in the long run. The key isn't choosing between them, but it's combining them in the right way. But how much running and strength training do you actually need to live longer then? A major study from 2015 set out to find the answer. They followed 5,000 people, some runners and some non-runners, to figure out exactly how much running you needed to live longer. And the results were pretty interesting. They made 3 major conclusions. The first finding was that jogging even just once per week for less than 1 hour significantly reduces mortality risk. The second finding was that to achieve the maximum benefits with the least amount of effort, you need to do the following: 1 to 2.4 hours of jogging per week and run for 2 to 3 times per week. But here's where it gets interesting. The third finding was that you can actually train too much. They found that jogging more than 2.5 hours per week at a fast pace did not significantly reduce mortality risk and might even increase it a bit. So what is the minimum amount of running you can do for longevity? You can get away with less than 1 session and 1 hour per week. But if you want to maximize the benefits, then 2 to 3 times per week with 1 to 2.4 hours per week. But I want to quickly note that this does not factor in VO2 max, which is one of the key predictors of all-cause mortality. So in my personal opinion, I would probably add a VO2 max session or 2 to that training volume. And a VO2 max session could be something like 4 times 4 minutes at the best average pace with a 2-minute jog in between. But as we discussed, running alone isn't enough. Because when it comes to muscle strength, that's where things get really interesting. So how much strength training do you need to live longer? Most people think that lifting weights is only for looking good and building muscle. But muscle strength is a direct predictor of how long you're going to live. The Copenhagen City Heart Study found the following. People with higher muscle strength had a significantly lower risk of all-cause mortality. Strength training just once or twice per week was associated with the lowest risk of an early death. And most importantly, having strong legs was one of the best predictors for long-term health. So how much do you actually need? 2 sessions per week is enough to get all the longevity benefits. Use 30 to 45 minutes per session and focus on compound movements like squats and deadlifts. But what if you want to run faster? Won't strength training just make you bulky and slow? And if you only have limited time, isn't it better to just run more? A group of researchers asked that exact question in 2017. They took 41 recreational runners and split them into 3 different groups to see what would happen if they replaced running with strength training over 10 weeks. The first was a running-only group. so they ran for 3 hours per week. The second was a running plus 1 strength training session per week, so they ran for 2.5 hours and did 1 30-minute strength session per week. And the third group did running plus 2 strength sessions per week, so they ran for 2 hours and did 2 30-minute strength sessions. They actually found that the runners who did 1 strength training session per week improved more than the running-only group, and the group that did 2 strength sessions per week improved even more, even though they were running less. And by improving more, I mean they ran faster. That means that if you use strength training the correct way, then not only will it not make you bulky and slow, it will actually make you faster than if you just run. But what if you just want to look good and build muscle? Shouldn't you just focus on strength training and stay far away from running? A lot of people think that running kills muscle growth. But that is a false belief. A meta-analysis from 2021 found that doing both cardio and strength training at the same time does not negatively impact muscle growth or strength gains. Also, researchers found that it doesn't really matter whether the cardio is cycling or running, whether someone trains more or less than 5 times per week, whether they are a beginner or already active, or whether they are younger or older. But this is where most runners go wrong. Many people believe that high reps and low weights are the best way to strength train for runners. I used to think that way too. I mean, it seems logical. But you should really think about strength training as building your car's engine. If you only focus on endurance, it's like riding a car with a tiny engine. It will go far, but it won't go fast. But if you build strength and power, then you're building a huge engine that can go far, but also go fast. Or put simply, it will make you run faster for longer and with better form. And research supports that doing heavy strength training and explosive work is far superior to doing low weights and many reps, at least when it comes to endurance and speed. And if you want a strength training protocol designed specifically for runners, then check out the link in the description below. So what's the takeaway? If your body was a sports car, then your cardio is your engine. It will determine how fast and how far you go. But strength is your frame. It keeps you durable and powerful. We need to train both to be a high-performance machine. But if you had to choose one, then running will give you a better protection against all-cause mortality. And if you want to know exactly how to combine strength training and running, then I'll show you exactly how to do that in this video right here, and I'll even give you a full protocol.